You can have 500 followers, 12 group chats, and a phone that never stops blinking, and still have nobody you would call at 2 in the morning. That is the strange contradiction of modern loneliness. Human beings have never had more ways to contact one another. Letters became phone calls. Phone calls became email, video chat, and feeds that never close. Yet more contact has not automatically produced more connection. In 2025, the World Health Organization reported that loneliness affects roughly 1 in 6 people worldwide. Among people aged 13 to 29, around 17 to 21% reported feeling lonely, with the highest rates among teenagers. And this is not one country having a particularly bleak Tuesday. It appears across regions, cultures, and income levels. The easy explanation is, phones did it. Convenient, but incomplete. First, loneliness is not the same as being alone. Solitude can be peaceful. You can spend an evening by yourself and feel completely connected to your life. You can also stand in a crowded room, surrounded by people, and feel invisible. Loneliness is the painful gap between the connection you have and the connection you feel you need. That gap is about quality, not simply quantity. 10 acquaintances do not necessarily equal 1 trusted friend. And loneliness itself is not a personal failure. It is a signal, like hunger or thirst, telling us that an important need is not being met. The problem begins when the signal becomes chronic. Global estimates vary because surveys ask different questions in different places at different times. But the pattern is remarkably consistent. Young people report some of the highest levels. Rates are also higher in lower-income countries, about 24%, compared with roughly 11% in wealthier ones. In the European Union's 2022 survey, 13% of respondents said they felt lonely most or all of the time. More than a third felt lonely at least some of the time. Meanwhile, across many wealthy countries, face-to-face contact with friends has declined, especially among young people. The precise numbers move from survey to survey, so we should be careful with dramatic graphs. But the direction is difficult to ignore. Calling this an epidemic does not mean loneliness is a virus. You cannot catch it from a suspicious doorknob. It means the problem is widespread, damaging, and shaped by the environment around us. Young adulthood contains an impressive number of socially destructive transitions. School ends, friends move, relationships change, jobs begin, disappear, or move to another city. Housing becomes expensive, temporary, or shared with strangers who label their milk like evidence in a criminal trial. At school, friendship happens almost accidentally. The same people appear in the same place 5 days a week. In adult life, seeing one friend can require 3 calendars, 2 train connections, and a small diplomatic summit. Time, transport, money, exhaustion, and the fear of seeming awkward all become tiny barriers. None looks enormous alone. Together, they form an obstacle course. At the same time, many traditional gathering places have weakened or become harder to access. Affordable cafes, libraries, youth clubs, sports courts, parks, and reliable public transport. For people facing poverty, disability, discrimination, migration, or unstable housing, the barriers can be even higher. So instead of asking, "What is wrong with this lonely person?" a better question is, what is missing around them? Loneliness is not simply a personality defect. The surrounding environment matters. Then there is social media. The defendant everyone has already convicted before the trial begins. Digital platforms can absolutely contribute to loneliness. Passive scrolling encourages comparison. You see everybody else's birthdays, holidays, relationships, and suspiciously photogenic breakfasts, while experiencing your own life from inside the unedited version. Likes and notifications can create a quick sensation of social reward, but if they do not lead to support, trust, or real participation, the feeling drains away. It is a little like eating crisps when you need dinner. Not useless, occasionally delightful, but structurally ambitious for a potato. But online contact is not automatically fake. A video call with a close friend is real connection. Gaming groups, fandoms, and online communities can be lifelines, especially for people who are isolated geographically, disabled, or unable to find acceptance nearby. The important difference is often passive observation versus active participation. Does the technology help you speak, share, cooperate, and eventually make plans? Or does it leave you silently watching other people appear to live? Chronic loneliness can also become self-reinforcing. Feeling disconnected makes the brain more alert to social threat. An unanswered message feels more significant. A neutral face can look unfriendly. They are busy slowly becomes they do not care. So a person withdraws to avoid rejection. Friends may try at first, then contact them less often. That creates even less connection, which confirms the original fear. The imagined threat begins shaping real behavior. This does not mean loneliness is imaginary. It means the mind is trying to protect us, and sometimes uses a filter that is too sensitive. The same delayed reply could mean busy, tired, distracted, uncertain, or rejecting. Loneliness quietly selects the darkest interpretation before the evidence arrives. It also overlaps with anxiety and depression. Each can intensify the others, and the relationship can run in both directions. So, what actually helps? The annoying answer is that connection usually comes from repeated, imperfect interaction, not one heroic night of networking. Friendship often grows through familiarity, seeing the same people in the same place often enough that conversation becomes easier. A weekly sports group, class, volunteering shift, book club, gaming group, or community project can work because repetition removes the need to begin from zero every time. Go somewhere the same people appear regularly, and make invitations specific. "We should meet sometime" is socially polite fog. "Coffee, Thursday, 5:30" gives another person something they can actually answer. Digital contact works best when it supports a relationship instead of replacing one. Send the message, make the call, then, when possible, turn contact into shared time. For persistent loneliness, structured help can matter. Peer groups, belonging programs, and cognitive behavioral support can help people rebuild confidence and question the automatic assumptions that keep the withdrawal cycle running. Loneliness is common, but if it is severe or tied to depression, anxiety, or thoughts of self-harm, professional support is important. Institutions matter too. Schools can create smaller, recurring groups instead of expecting every student to find belonging in a crowd. Cities can invest in parks, libraries, public transport, youth spaces, and affordable activities. Connection needs places, time, and repeated opportunities. Young people did not suddenly forget how to socialize. They are navigating transitions, financial pressure, constant comparison, and the loss of shared spaces, all at once. And the goal is not to collect the maximum number of people. What matters is whether relationships contain support, trust, continuity, and the feeling that you matter. There is also a useful difference between saying, "I am lonely," and saying, "I feel lonely." One sounds like an identity, the other describes a state, and a state can change. Connection is not a luxury, and loneliness is not proof that someone is broken. It is a human signal, and a public health challenge we can design for. Because everyone deserves more than a crowded contact list. Everyone deserves somewhere to belong.